The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
From Mallory Square in Key West to the Governor's Mansion in Tallahassee and all points beyond, you're listening to the Florida Beer Podcast, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com, your source for all things related to the craft beer community in the Sunshine State. And now your host, Dave Butler.
Hey everybody, it's time for another episode of the Florida Beer Podcast, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com. And we're not necessarily going to be talking about beer today. We're actually going to be talking about the recent slate of THC beverages that you are seeing on the market. Obviously, they are booming in popularity and kind of dovetailing with the recent spate of ready-to-drink cocktails. Now, doesn't mean that the THC beverages are also alcoholic. In fact, they actually can't be, and I didn't realize that until today's interview. But they are definitely the next hot item. You'll see a lot of places such as Total Wine and ABC and restaurants are starting to either offer THC beverages or some sort of additive. And one of the newest THC beverages on the market, which I think is absolutely brilliant, is Coral Reefer. And if that name sounds familiar, then you are probably a parrot head. And if neither of those sound familiar, then you are not necessarily well versed in the music of one Jimmy Buffett. Now, the late Jimmy Buffett has obviously left us, but left an indelible and pretty much permanent mark on the state of Florida with not only the music, but the Margaritaville chain of restaurants, hotels. I think there's a cruise ship, license plate, all sorts of different products. Now, there's been a Jimmy Buffett themed beer for a very long time, and nobody's touching a land shark. But Coral Reefer is a different product in a different marketplace. And with the co-founders of Coral Reefer, Joe Snyder and Peter Hanley, we were able to sort of talk about not only the future of THC beverages here in the U.S. and Florida specifically, but also the legalities about why it can't be an alcoholic beverage, and also starting with a good long discussion of Miller Lite. So you can see that this isn't just some sort of flash in the pan. These are two gentlemen who have a long storied history of creating beverages that everybody enjoys. Obviously, Jimmy cannot be with us, but he is with us in spirit, and we can definitely taste the spirit of the Margaritaville concept that he built in Coral Reefer. But enough about that. I want to get to the interview with Joe and Peter, and make sure to stick around because near the end of the interview, you will have a special discount code exclusive to the Florida Beer Podcast for you to try Coral Reefer yourself. Enjoy. So I would assume that you're both parrot heads.
I'm a big time parrot head. I'm Joe's a parrot head in training.
Yeah.
If you were a big time parrot head, how many were you able to see him live? How many times?
I've seen him about less than 10, but more than 5, maybe 7 or 8 times in New England and Florida. Probably never enough. You know, I discovered him in college in the 70s, and I've been a parrot head ever since.
Joe, how difficult was it to drag you into the parrot head realm?
Oh, I always loved his music. I just never knew who was singing it. You know, that he'd be just really enjoying a song. And now I hear it and it's like, oh, that was a Jimmy Buffett song, you know? So.
And it's interesting. What surprises me about Jimmy Buffett is he was very successful in transforming himself and his music into basically a lifestyle.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And how, I guess, jumping the gun a little bit, how did you decide to partner this concept? And we'll talk about the concept. We'll talk about the product here in a little bit. But how did you decide that Jimmy Buffett was and the Coral Reefer sort of tie-in, that was the way that you wanted to go?
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like a natural progression where we were coming out with a product that nobody else could do. And Margaritaville was looking for something different. They didn't want to be one of the 500 seltzers that are on the market. So they approached us, luckily, at a Hemp Beverage Alliance expo. And we just hit it off. It was just like an instant gravitational pull between the two parties. And it's been great. I think, too, just going back to Jimmy Buffett, that he made having fun very mainstream and acceptable, even in the excess, through some of his songs. And it was just, a gentle approach to having a great time versus, Deadhead, acid rock, all of that edgy, depravity in a way of making it acceptable to go out and have a good time and get really drunk, and it's okay, you know. So, not snorting coke or doing heroin under a bridge somewhere. It's let's have a good time and enjoy ourselves while we can.
I definitely know some of those songs. I can think of one, right on the top of my brain that sort of comes to mind. But, as I think about Cheeseburger in Paradise, he does extol the virtues of a gold beer, which is amazing. And so we have this product, Coral Reefer, is in its heart a beer, but it's not a beer. I guess, do you have any experience in making beer? Wink.
Yeah. So I started out my life aspiration to be a forest ranger, driving in a pickup truck in a woods somewhere and being paid to be there. And so I went to the College of Environmental Science and Forestry in Syracuse and found out that, geez, there's no jobs in that area. And these guys were on strike at Miller Brewing Company up in Fulton, New York, not too far away.
Okay.
And they were on strike making $28 an hour, back in 1980. And it's like, are you kidding me? I'm making $7 an hour working at Syracuse University, and they're on strike because they're only making $28. It's like, I'm going to put my resume in up there. And 3 weeks later, I was working in the brewing industry, and it's been a fantastic ride. The old adage about, join the Navy and see the world. It's like, join the brewing industry and see the world. And, I've been all over the world helping brewers solve their problems.
Mm-hmm.
And first at Miller Brewing Company, where I was involved in identifying some deficiencies in our major product and then solving the problem with a team of people, but ultimately taking a sabbatical in a pilot brewery and brewing what ultimately became the new formulation of Miller Lite. And so the current formulation, there's been a few tweaks here and there, but it made a major change to the brand just before leaving the company in 1997.
Well, that's got to be a very different, because you had mentioned you did pilot products. You created, I would assume some of them might have come to see the light of day market, some of them didn't. What is the process for creating a new beverage from scratch? And when you worked on Miller, this other side of that, when you reformulated Miller Lite, was that a similar process, or did you have to sort of start at the end and work backwards a little bit?
Yeah, most brands have some evolutionary change over time. But there's very few things that come that are totally unique, and some of them are successful and some of them are not. But like the light beer category wasn't created by Miller, but they bought the rights to Miller Lite to that brand. Not the brand name, but I think it was Meisterbrau Light originally. And then Miller adopted it and then put the money behind it to make the whole new category, the whole light beer category. So, but that took time. It evolved. I think they got started in 1975 with Miller Lite. And by the time all the other players in the industry started, denouncing the whole category as being, a flash in the pan, then a few years later, they started doing their own brands, like, Coors Light and Bud Light. But it took them a while. So, they had to innovate from market pressure. And other things that Miller did for clear beer. I don't know if you remember that, but
I think I've heard the name, heard the words, never.
Yeah, we made a completely clear beer, beer base, stripped all the color out of it, added, some really unique flavors to it. It was actually a tremendous beer, but the consumer said, hey, this would be a great beer if it had some color in it, So, but it didn't work out. But gosh, that was like the entry level of the seltzers in a way, and then the wine coolers came in and,
I haven't heard that that phrase in a long time.
Yeah. So, where does innovation come from? There's incremental changes, and then there's people that swing for the fences, and sometimes regulations have an impact on what innovation has to take place. But as a natural product, beer has to be tweaked because, is it, how is the hop crop? And we had a drought in the plains where the malt's made. So you have to really be on top of what individual recipes have to be adjusted to make your product the same as it was prior, And then there's always problems that crop up where, in most American Pilsner and light beers, there's not a lot there to hide defects. So you really have to be refined brewers to ensure that any defects get nipped in the bud because there's nothing there to cover it. You can make IPAs all day long and you rely on your hops and, high bitterness levels to cover up defects, but you just can't do it with a light beer. So you have to be very proficient at brewing. So
it almost sounds like you're always improving. You're always piloting to make sure that it doesn't taste like anything has changed.
Yep. And you have to get in front of consumers, so they spend vast fortunes of money putting blind samples in front of consumers in order to make sure that on a blind basis you're at parity. And that's what happened, way back when I was doing that consumer research and found out that, hey, we're just not Miller Lite was developed at a time where it had to go up against Budweiser and Stroh's and Schlitz, which were full calorie, 150 calorie beers, and you're coming in with a 96 calorie beer. So you had to design it so it could compete against these full flavored beers, which is tough because it would come out potentially as being real watery compared to 100% malt old style, for example. So there's things you do to adjust for that. But over time, Coors Light and Bud Light came out. They are much lighter. And our consumer research would always be, we're at parity, everything's going good. And until Miller Lite sales started falling and Coors Light and Bud Light kept growing, and it's like there's got to be more to this story. So that's when I did some, very detailed analysis of multiple years of results and found out, hey, this product has a problem. It can't compete in this category that it created anymore. So that's when I went to the Pile Brewery and brewed probably 100 or more formulations and variations and came up with what ultimately became the new formulation of Miller Lite. So it was a lot of work, but it was really, really proud of what happened, and really helped save the company, because if that product went down, it was their flagship brand at that time. It would have been a disaster for the company.
Absolutely. But that's, I mean, that in a way, having that much responsibility for a known brand such as Miller Lite, it's got to be drastically different from going out onto your own and creating something from scratch, especially since you don't have the millions of dollars to throw at, bringing people in and testing and so on and so forth. So why did you decide? How did you decide to kind of take that leap and for the two of you to get together and create what you currently have?
Yeah, well, it was from a unique set of experiences that, after I left Miller, it's like, hey, I've done this work for you and I want a promotion. And I haven't been promoted in 10 years. And it's like, here's a t-shirt, get the hell out of my office. It's like, come on. And so they had an offer. Hey, you could volunteer to get laid off and we'll give you a year's pay to go away. It's like, sign me up. So after leaving Miller, I went to work for a filtration company and then a German brew house company, always in sales,
Mhm.
and then an extract company that made hop extracts. So it was those combination of experiences that gave me the insights to do what we're doing right now, to make a 100% malt, hop beverage that we could put THC in legally. So it's not been fermented. And so we never had alcohol generated, which meant it's legal. Everybody and their brother has tried to make a beer and remove the alcohol. But if you read the regulations, it says if there's alcohol in it, even if you get it all out, it's still a fermented product. So
Because that's one of the interesting things about Coral Reefer is, it's very much that you mentioned that it is beer in the traditional sense of malt and hops.
beer ingredients, yep,
Beer
100%
ingredients.
malt.
But it wasn't a beer with the alcohol removed. You kept it never beer, never going that last step
Yeah.
into becoming an alcohol and bringing it back. And I guess I'm surprised that you can't just remove all the alcohol and the feds would say, okay, there's nothing in there.
Yeah.
It's got to never have had it to begin with.
Yeah, that's right. They don't want THC in the breweries. They don't want.
Haven't they met a brewer yet?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's loosened up, but when it first, a lot of brewers are doing THC beverages. They're just not doing a beer because you can't remove the alcohol and make it. Although a couple they're flying underneath the radar for now. But if your whole premise is at risk with the turn of some regulator coming in and shutting you down, you put your brewing license at risk. So we can avoid that, and so far it's been a very
Dave, if it's got alcohol in it or had alcohol in it, it's a TTB product. If it doesn't have alcohol, never fermented, it's an FDA product. It's really as simple as that.
Interesting. And that's a good question because on the side of your can has nutrition facts.
Yeah.
It's got an FDA label, which beers and wines never do. So it's a completely different. Okay, interesting.
So we work with the Hemp Beverage Alliance, and they are trying to get the cart back behind the horse again and do things with proper diligence and stuff. And we are trying to follow FDA guidelines. And that completely eliminates ever having a non-alcohol or a fermented alcohol-free beer as a viable product.
It's liberating too because we don't have to follow the 3-tier system, for example, because it's FDA. They don't have that. We can do direct sales, without worrying about, this alcohol component complicating our lives.
Interesting. And also, how does the hemp, I guess, culture view alcohol? It seems like if people are interested in one, they're not necessarily interested in the other, and the people that are interested in the CBD and the THC side of things don't necessarily want the added alcohol. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, there's some definite dynamics there where people who can't drink alcohol anymore for health reasons or for sobriety reasons are really excited about finding out about our product. They love beer, and they just have been unable to consume it. So we've had a lot of interest from people in that category.
So, how long did it take for you to formulate something like this to where it was something that you were proud of being able to manufacture long before the Margaritaville people came on board?
Yeah, it's been like a 4-year effort to really get this refined. You know, we threw out our first 2 production runs.
Mm.
Just because I didn't think they were good enough. Peter's like, "No, they're great. What are you talking about?" It's
Much to
like,
my chagrin.
no, no, we're just not doing it. We're going to throw them out. So um, it's it's been a it's been a lot. There's a lot of challenges, a lot of technical issues. We had a really good partner in the brewing arena to actually do the co-packing for us,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's been. I'm totally impressed with the product, even though I have my own personal biases. It's exceeded my expectations. When we finally got it dialed in, its stability and its flavor profile, really amazing. It's not easy to do. What
No.
we've been able to do is not easy.
And I would love to talk about the flavor because, obviously when people talk about additives and beverages, it tends to be more of a flavor side. No, here's this peach or here's this or that.
Yeah.
Does the hemp, does the CBD have its own different flavors that you are either looking to mask with the recipe of the beer, not beer, or accentuate with the recipes?
I'll tell you what, things that we would go to the THC suppliers and the CBD suppliers, and it's like, oh, well, we, deflavorize this or we mask it with, certain compounds so that you don't get the bitterness. It's like, I want all that stuff. I want the funkiness, I want that bitter. Unlike a seltzer, there's no bitter seltzer on the market, but we're putting bitterness in our product through hops and cannabis are sister
Mhm.
plants, So the things that are negative for most other products really enhance our product. The THC improves the taste profile of our product, not just from a bitterness standpoint, but from a body and fullness impact. So it's been some real serendipitous twists to this story.
And what the another thing that I find interesting about the THC is the levels. Is it seems like of the couple varieties that you currently have packaged, nothing really goes above 5 milligrams.
Yeah, I mean, our first foray was 10 milligrams.
Mhm.
We did 2 Saints, and we were in the Minneapolis market, and you couldn't sell a product that was less than 10 in that market. I don't think there was an upper limit at that time, and a 5 milligram product would sit on the shelf. So it's like, okay, it just makes sense. We're going to go to 10. And we put it in a 16-ounce can just to be
Okay.
more beery, sell a pint. Beer's sold by the pint. So let's put in a pint can and let's go to 10. So we're at least competitive on the shelf. But um, in a market that's well developed like Minneapolis, that's okay. In a in an arena like Margaritaville, people are, oh, I'm curious. I'm kind of curious. I really want to try it. 10 milligrams would do some serious sleepy
Yeah.
time. for most people. So, and then as a retailer, it's really important that we don't have a situation where it's one and done. I want to have, multiple orders in my bar so that, I can keep the doors open. So, we also we have a 2.5 milligram and a 5 milligram so that the on-premise locations can have a choice to what makes most sense for them. For a consumer, hey, I enjoy having a couple beers during a ball game. And, if I have a couple of fives, I'm going to sleep by the, seventh inning. But if I had, a couple of 2.5s, I can make it all the way to the ninth and be okay.
That makes sense. It really does feel like this is more developed with a specific lifestyle in mind and not.
For sure. I'm glad you said that because, nobody's ever said to anybody, come over my house and let's share a gummy, but hey, come on over. Let's have a few brews, right? Because there's this camaraderie, there's a social aspect to beer that is unlike any other product that I know of. I've always enjoyed that of being in the brewing industry that, you sit around the fire and you have a couple brews and you go to a game and you have a couple brews and, it just, there's something special that isn't like that in any other beverage, in my opinion.
Gotcha. So you've got this interesting product that's in a developing niche. Um, and obviously we brought the Margaritaville people into this. We brought the keepers of the Jimmy Buffett flame, shall we say.
Sure.
What kinds of ideas and flavors or strengths or whatnot did they bring? Is there anything like, hey, we would love to have, Coral Reefer on the packaging, but there's certain things that we're looking for, certain things that Jimmy would have wanted in terms of how this looks or how this feels or how this tastes.
Yeah, they were very impressed with the authenticity, that there's no explanation needed when you try this product, that if you're drinking an NA or alcohol-free beer, sometimes it leaves a little bit to be desired, so the profile is very authentic and they wanted to go with a lager right out of the gate so that, you prove your beer credentials and you show people that, hey, this is really a beer. We're not going to be disappointed by, having to make a compromise somewhere. And then there's, planning to do portfolio expansion, both a light category and an IPA, so once this really gets rolling, we have plans to do further expansion. And we can do, with our technology, we can do everything from a Mick Ultra to a Guinness Stout in it and really, be authentic with it. So it's pretty cool.
I would love to try to see what a dry Irish stout not beer, but with this would be, that'd be amazing.
It's really amazing. What I'm astonished at how authentic these products are. So Coral Reefer CannaBrew is our first Jimmy Buffett product, and we targeted a Boston Lager style for that. So I think we nailed it.
And I find it interesting that you went Boston Lager because obviously, Jimmy Buffett, that concept has had Landshark for many, 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 many years.
Right.
But this is distinctively similar, both in sort of visual style, but also in terms of taste. So was that conscious to really try to remove as much as possible from the current iteration, or did it just sort of
organically? Anheuser-Busch has the rights and they've done all the market development for Landshark. So, that was like don't tread on me. You don't want to be bit by the Landshark, So, I think it was a pretty conscious decision not to be too close or to make any association with, with Land Shark.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Now, obviously, in November, there are going to be some laws that might be getting passed, might not be getting passed, that will seriously curb the ability to find and purchase and create even hemp-based products. Is this something that you're watching? Are you concerned about this, or do you think this is going to blow by the wayside with nary a tree touched?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing we can possibly do about it, so we're just going to have to go where the wind blows, take a Jimmy Buffett attitude about it, and see where it ends up. We're trying not to do a lot of investing, a lot of expensive marketing at this point. We're just going to have to, get rid of what we have, and because there's no way to get a return, and we're very interested in having people try the product. We have several promotions out there right now. Peter's going to talk about that in a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah.
To get people to at least try it, and let us run through our inventory, and let's see if we live to fight another year past November. So, but then we also have plans to survive. People are drinking non-alcoholic beers, alcohol-free beers. The regulations say you can have a 0.4 milligram THC beverage, and it's like, well, why not do that? Maybe you could have 5 or 6, beers during a game and get that buzz. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Just because it's 0.4 doesn't mean that it's absolutely not, or it's not worth it. We just have to see how it evolves.
Dave, the federal government, they put this ban in place because they wanted to rewrite the legislation for hemp that was, in their opinion, poorly written in the 2018 Farm Bill. So this is an opportunity for them to regroup, rewrite the legislation to take out some of the bad actors in our industry. And they are looking for low-dose, responsible companies like ours to really kind of emerge out of it. That's the half glass full side of the story. The empty side is, when has the federal government ever done anything on time? And so we don't know that. And then what we also don't know is, if the deadline comes and goes, what's Tallahassee going to do about it? Because they're talking about making it state by state available also, and that would be fine. That'd be okay with us.
Yeah, we could still operate, in Florida. We couldn't go across state lines, so we would have to, brew in state, which isn't a problem. We're evaluating that right now anyway. So that'll be, you got to be flexible. Peter and I changed our direction on a monthly basis, I think, because of the demands in the marketplace. You just have to be flexible.
Absolutely. So with the marketplace, where can somebody try this right now? I would assume it's in the state of Florida.
It is. We are in a select number of Margaritavilles, and you can buy it by the can there. You can buy it in a handful of retail liquor stores, but primarily the way to go is online. And we have we sell 8-packs and cases online. Ship it same day. We have plenty of inventory in both the 2.5 and the 5 milligram doses. And we just partnered with a beer app called Untapped, and they're going to be helping us promote the product throughout the state of Florida.
Interesting.
So we're hoping that as well as this podcast helps bring awareness to beer drinkers in Florida that there's something new out there in this space. And Joe is a very modest man, but he's made a phenomenal product, and we would like the world to try it. Yeah, buy CannaBrew.com and CoralReefer.com. Both of those websites will get it done.
That's kind of awesome.
But we could probably come up with a discount code right as we're speaking that buy 4, BUY number 4, and you buy 4, you get 4 free.
Awesome. You heard it here first. So
Yeah.
BUY number 4 for buy 4, get 4 free.
Yep. So how about that?
That's awesome. I will leave you gentlemen with this last question. If Jimmy were here today, do you think he would be enjoying Coral Reefer?
Oh, I'm Joe. This is for me. One of the great regrets in my life is never having met the man. You know, I been going to his concert, listening to his music, reading his books, everything Jimmy did. I was a follower, and it just is amazing to me that I have this opportunity now, and I meet all these people at Margaritaville that knew Jimmy. You know, he was a man of vision and a man of ideas, and he put them to work. You know, the thing about Jimmy Buffett, I don't know if most people know this, but of all the musicians in the history of America, he's the second richest ever.
Interesting.
Paul McCartney is richer than Jimmy Buffett and his empire. Everything he touched turned to gold.
Well, I mean, I can't think of any other musicians who you can buy a license plate in the state of Florida.
That's correct.
So
A1A is now Jimmy Buffett Highway.
Yeah.
And there's Jimmy Buffett Day is the Friday before Labor Day.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've got all kinds of trivia on Jimmy.
Well, I know exactly what I'm going to be listening to once we get off this interview. But gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Look forward to trying Coral Reefer, and definitely excited. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Dave.
And that is it for our interview with Coral Reefer. Remember that discount code BUY, the number 4. That'll get you buy 4, get 4 free at coralreefer.com. Definitely excited about that. Thank you so much to Joe and Peter for coming on the show. We really do appreciate it. And for Sydney for setting that up. Definitely excited to have them as part of the Florida craft industry. Next week, we will be back with a 2-parter that, once again, just like this episode, kind of has something to do with beer, but isn't necessarily beer. The second episode is going to be mostly beer, let's be honest. But the first episode is going to focus on another drink that is getting really popular here in Florida. It's always been there, always been a part of culture, but not quite the way that it definitely is experiencing now. So we will make sure to post all of that information on social media when that episode goes live. And if you want to, just find us. We're on Instagram, we're on Threads, we're on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all sorts of great places. Just find us. We will be there for you. If you want to reach out to us, just do so at floridabeerblog@gmail.com. You can also find us on floridabeerblog.com, which is kind of sunset a little bit, but I'm going to try and publish some more stuff there momentarily. And obviously floridabeerpodcast.com. And when you go to floridabeerpodcast.com, you will find that we are proudly represented by the good people at Flintstone Media. If you have a podcast that you want to get off the ground, whether it's something that you want to do for your hobby or something you're doing for your business, Flintstone Media are absolutely the people to go to. These full service house will give you everything that you need to get started successfully. Just head to flintstonemedia.com for more information. Our intro announcer is Jeff Brozovich, field producer Steve Piccola, executive producer for Flintstone Media and Grand High Poobah is Jimmy Lagonier. This is Dave, your host and author. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week and drink Florida Craft.